Hi everyone, I'm Carolina Monte and this is What's Happening in Brazil. We start by updating you on the latest news from the country. Brazil's Supreme Court has suspended labor proceedings related to contracts signed by independent contractors. The practice is common among companies in Brazil, which hire workers as service providers, but demand employment obligations. The suspension affects thousands of cases and is considered a threat to social rights guaranteed by the Constitution. Hundreds of people marched through downtown São Paulo to demand justice for Senegalese worker Ngange Mbaye, another victim of the military police. The street vendor was beaten and murdered on Friday the 11th after having his goods seized by the police. Protesters also denounced the constant police violence against these workers. This month, the Landless Workers Movement, known as MST, began implementing an agroforestry project in southern Venezuela. The program's goal is to stimulate food sovereignty in Venezuela by broadening the sustainable production of healthy food in the country. The conference Dilemmas of Humanity, held last week in the city of São Paulo, finished many debates filled with hope for the future of global South economies. This was the assessment of the event's organizers and progressive intellectuals that attended the conference.
Between April 7th and 10th, more than 70 intellectuals, political leaders, and people's movements from all over the world met in Brazil to discuss concrete economic and social solutions to the crisis caused by neoliberalism.
This is an important moment for collective reflection, but not just for diagnosis or for proposing real alternatives to the capitalism system's structural crisis. We must propose something capable of building a political agenda that influences governments and multilateral organizations and that provides a joint agenda, a platform for the struggle of people's movements, especially those we are organizing in the International People's Assembly.
The lecturers of the conference stressed the urgency to propose alternatives to capitalism, placing life at the center of the debate.
Historically, people in different latitudes have organized and produced in order to take care of life, not just human beings, but the system of life as a whole, the nature of which we are a part. What capitalism, and above all, this new neoliberal phase have brought is destruction, which is not based on a logic of reproducing life, but on destruction through exploitation, exclusion, and impoverishment. And now we are living on this threshold because the climate crisis and the exodus of populations are due to this destruction.
The conference took place during the week marked by the tariffs imposed by the U.S. President Donald Trump on more than 90 countries, especially China. The dispute was considered fertile ground for global South development.
The United States is in a hegemonic dispute with China, and China has obviously not accepted simply negotiating with the U.S. based on this attempt to destabilize international trade. As global South countries, we should take advantage of this opportunity. The greatest leaps in developing countries have happened at times like this.
Taken
to the limit, this could mean a death blow to what currently sustains U.S. imperialism, namely control of the global currency. Therefore, alternatives to de-dollarization are better presented and have a better chance of developing in a scenario of social tension in which the United States operates isolationist and protectionism policies.
Brazil's Minister of Finance, Fernando Haddad, defended taxing the super rich to combat social inequality.
For every super rich in Brazil, we managed to benefit 100 workers, 2/3 with an exemption and 1/3 with a tax reduction. We are among the 10 largest economies in the world, but also among the 10 most unequal countries. This is the paradox of many economies around, and it is not specific to Brazil.
For Indian historian Vijay Prashad, the conference achieved an important goal: to put socialism back on the horizon as not only possible, but necessary in a period of defeat of the global left and strengthening of the extreme right. He also emphasized the role of regionalism in this scenario.
I think the idea of regionalism is really at the heart of our conversation. Some of the solutions for trade and development won't happen at the global level. They'll have to happen at the regional level. You know, Brazil is one of the least integrated countries into South America. Regional integration in South America and Latin America with the Caribbean, so important. African integration, so important. Asian integration, so important. Perhaps the foundation for a new trade and development policy won't come at the global level, but will start from the regions.
Also, last week saw the end of the 21st edition of the Free Land Camp in Brazil's capital, Brasilia. The event sent a number of messages to the government, to the invaders of indigenous lands, and to the mega developments that threaten the lives of indigenous peoples and the biomes they protect.
"15 days of meetings and more than 8,000 indigenous people from 150 ethnic groups from all over Brazil defending their territories. A struggle that has been going on since the Portuguese invasion of Brazil and continues to be important against a backdrop of threats to the rights of indigenous peoples. The 21st edition of the Free Land Camp also celebrated the 20th anniversary of the articulation of indigenous peoples of Brazil, also known in Portuguese as WHIB.
Fala dos 20 anos na WHIB.
When we talk about the 20 years of WHIB, we are not referring only to the period from 2005 to 2025. That is also about what we've carried through these 20 years of history, from when the great indigenous assemblies, the great movements, the great mobilizations began back in the 70s into the 80s. The history of our organizations was one of unification, coordination, and an articulation of the Brazilian indigenous movement until we reached the creation of a WHIB, and a WHIB is now 2 decades old.
In addition to the native peoples of Brazil, the Free Land Camp 2025 welcomed indigenous peoples from 15 countries, including Australia and Fiji. The participants spoke out against the time-frame thesis and for an energy transition process that does not invade any more indigenous territories or traditional communities. They also denounced the fact that the Lula government has adopted practices that go against the president's own speech at climate conferences. The most emblematic case is oil exploration at the mouth of the Amazon River. WHIB radically opposes the plan.
When it comes to oil, gas, and mining, whether it's gold, silver, diamonds, or any other type of mineral exploitation within indigenous territories, that's what we will always say. We won't accept it, because I don't know of any country in which indigenous people got rich when their country was totally exploited.
I've taken part in several Free Land Camp meetings here, and it's a movement that brings together many peoples from other places too, fighting for a single cause, for demarcation, and to improve healthcare and education.
The Free Land Camp shows that we still live and we will live. It shows that we are respected and recognized by non-indigenous people to live together peacefully, to build a country of solidarity, cohesiveness. Many people don't recognize the ethnic diversity of indigenous peoples, even though the Brazilian Constitution doesn't allow racism. Members of our peoples, our leaders are being persecuted. Their culture is being devalued. That is a non-bailable crime. Even so, we live on. We keep fighting.
A Brasilia resident for 4 decades, market trader Guilherme has been watching the Freeland camp happen for 21 years. This was the first time he decided to join the camp. Guilherme walked around the space, listened to some of the debates in the plenary sessions, and came away with a new vision on the indigenous people's articulation.
I was very curious. I've been watching the movement since Monday, so today I took the time to come and see it, and I wasn't disappointed. It was very interesting. The preservation of our culture, of our country, is something that we always need to be aware of, to respect not the wishes, but the achievements of these peoples so that they don't go backwards. It is a question of raising awareness among the people themselves about the fact that indigenous peoples are part of our life, of our society.
Did you like the show? So hit the like button and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to receive notifications. We'll see you next week.